folks, thanks for joining us here for another episode of Thousand Words. It's been fun visiting with folks through all of these episodes, and I'm really excited today to have an old friend. I promised I wasn't going to put a date on myself, but another former student of mine that has always been a creative guy, and it's been fun to watch his career evolve. But welcome today to my good friend Hayes Scriven.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Matt.
So Hayes is originally from Southern Minnesota and was a student of mine in video production back in the day at Kenya Wanamingo, played football for me there. Hayes's career has been one that has kind of taken him through the realms of the history world and historical society. He worked in Northfield for a number of years, and now maybe has what is ultimately turning into what his dream job is. And he is it's called technically site keeper, but we all know him as the keeper of the lighthouse at Splitrock Lighthouse up on the North Shore in Minnesota. So this must be kind of a dream job for you, Hayes.
Yeah, when I got the job at Splitrock, it was one of those things that just kind of blended multiple loves for me, which was history, being outdoors, Lake Superior, northern Minnesota, and it was just kind of this like, I can't believe this is happening to me kind of a thing. And for somebody like me who's always been a big lover of history, like being surrounded by history and living in history pretty much like is really a dream come true. And then, you know, being able to be up here on the North Shore is like that really fun, delicious cherry on top of that ice cream that right. Just works out so well. So
you like me have always been one that's kind of gravitated and had a magnetic pull to the North Country. I know, even all the way back into high school doing Boundary Waters trips, and you've tried to escape to the North Country as much as possible, and to now be able to live there, I'm sure is something that you probably wake up every day and realize the blessing of being in such a great place.
Oh, every time people ask, like they say, oh, you're just in a great spot and you're doing great things up there. And I said, yeah. And I don't really know how to respond. And the only way I do respond is, yeah, I do live a very blessed life. And I don't take that for granted, because it is like, I really am living my dream of where I want to be. You know, this was part of the reason why we left Northfield, was because we grew up there. Our family's all in Southern Minnesota. Like that's all I knew for my entire part of my life. And now being able to come up here, it was really great to take that opportunity and live a dream up here, and being able to be, 45 minutes from the Boundary Waters and being surrounded by all this history is just it's a true dream come true. And it really makes me happy that I made that choice, 4 years ago to take a risk and come up here.
And, you're in a spot, like you said, that's so accessible to the Boundary Waters, and obviously the North Shore, and Duluth is right there. But really, I mean, you're not far from home. I mean, it's an easy half a day drive, but to be able to, walk out your door and look up and see truly like one of the icons of the state of Minnesota, let alone the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes, to have Splitrock Lighthouse there as the place that you literally go to work is really a crazy, awesome backdrop, and what an awesome office to work from.
I started this thing on my Instagram account where I try to do a few stories every week on like what it's like to live here. And we're trying to do that through some of the actual programming that we're doing on site, telling more of the personal stories of people that have lived here, because honestly, that's a lot more of the neater history that doesn't get told all the time.
You've always been a creative guy all the way back to, even when you were in high school. You talk about kind of the change or the evolution from, hey, here's a cell phone picture, which there are, hundreds of thousands of cell phone pictures taken every year of Splitrock Lighthouse and of the North Shore. But you've taken that from this point of, here's Splitrock again today. You got a new tool in your hands. You've got an amazing canvas to work on, and you kind of found this or maybe it was even sort of rediscovering the visual creativity. The first photo that I'm going to pull up, you kind of said was maybe one of the days that you realized that you were in a place to do this, and you had a story to possibly tell and something to share. Tell us the story about what happened here, and maybe how this led into what has become this great new hobby for you.
Yeah, so this picture is from last summer, and I had been working these 10-hour days, and I'm like, I haven't actually captured a sunrise shot at Splitrock like with this SLR camera that we bought for the site. At that point, I really wasn't sure what I was doing. I was just trying to make sure that the back of the camera looked good, and all of a sudden I heard this crashing noise, and this is at like 5:30 in the morning, and I look up and there's these two women walking down the trail, and they're just like really trucking it to get down to catch the sunrise. And they said, well, we're from White Bear Lake, and we've always wanted to see a sunrise at Split Rock. We drove up this morning. I'm like, wait, what? Like, they left at 2 in the morning to be at Split Rock for a possible sunrise. But that kind of instilled in me like, hey, all these people really want to see this kind of stuff. And like, if I could capture even these, I don't want to call them bland sunrises, but like for these people and share them with everyone else, maybe they don't have to get up at 2 in the morning. Like,
and really, I mean, a gift for you to be able to kind of realize maybe a little bit of responsibility you've got, but also it's like, I mean, how cool is it that ultimately that sort of becomes part of your job in telling the story of the lighthouse, which is awesome, because for some people it's a once in a lifetime thing to see it, let alone to see a sunrise. Again, you get to wake up every day and kind of see what it looks like, and you know, hey, I might go down there today. The thing that I think is super intriguing, and as I've watched your work kind of evolve, you've had a series of photos that when you actually have the light on, which is, you know, it's a beautiful spot on the cliff during the day or sunrise, sunset, but there becomes this incredible power behind the actual beacon being turned on. As you talk about this image, tell us also just about the lighthouse and when you turn it on, and maybe a little bit about this vertical photo that we're looking at.
Yeah, so this one is an interesting one. It had been so foggy up here last summer for like probably a week straight. It was just thick pea soup fog, like you couldn't see anything. It was really kind of interesting. And the more I started thinking about it, I'm like, I've never seen the beacon on when it's been foggy out, and like I just want to see what it's like. And so if you've never seen the light on either, like the first time I saw the beacon on was one of the Edmund Fitzgerald's events, actually my first day here on site, and we turned the beacon on officially for July 31st and November 10th for the anniversary of the sinking of the Edmund Fitzgerald. And those are the only 2 official times that we do it. But we do turn it on a few times for just checking to make sure everything's working right, that the gears are rotating, that the light's not burnt out, that kind of stuff. And this one, the fog shot here, I hadn't actually turned it on for about a month. And I was like, well, I'll flip it on for, you know, a half hour and see what it's like, and get the benefit of like seeing what it would do in the fog if I truly want to understand the power of the lighthouse. So we turned it on, and it like the mist and the water particles in the air just really intensified the beam. I looked at this and I was like, this is pure power. like right here, this is just pure power. And it turned out way better than I thought, because the image was so crisp and clean, and then like the fog kind of gave it this weird backdrop behind it where it like made the lighthouse stand out even more. So it was just one of those other like magical moments of like, I wasn't quite sure what I was doing, but I got it to work. So
yeah, I promised that I was going to refrain from any of the light really came on pun joke things, but you know, to have literally a switch that you can flip that entirely changes an environment. And as photographers, we're always, you know, trying to wrangle light. That's what we do. And it's, you know, how are we capturing things and how are we exposing things? And you literally have, you know, the ability to flip a switch and have, you know, one of the most powerful, you know, tools to emote and just pull out a ton of emotion, which is just an amazing thing. The other photo with regard to the lighthouse that I really wanted to look at was this one, and I think you said it was on the anniversary of the Edmund Fitzgerald, which is an amazing story, and one that lives in lore, obviously up in your neck of the woods, let alone all over. But it's this kind of the double beam. Looks like there's maybe some snow on the ground, but just a really, really powerful image that kind of retold the story of that, you know, that fateful night on Lake Superior in November.
Yeah, this one was another, you know this as a photographer too. Like you're sometimes luck is just the best case that you can have with a photo. And we were doing a live stream of the actual beacon lighting. It worked really well, and the live stream was done. And I left the beacon rotate for a little bit afterwards because I know there's photographers down on the shore taking pictures, and it started to snow. But I was really amped up too because I had just gotten my new full frame camera. And I was walking back to the house, I'm getting ready to go, and I'm like, well, I'm going to take one more shot of the lighthouse with the light on from my favorite spot, which is this behind shot of the lighthouse. It's not a shot everybody gets to see. It once again tells like, hey, I'm living on site. This is a different view. Mm-hmm. And I got the tripod set up, and the snow is still coming down. So that's what you kind of see in the background there is all the snow is still coming down. But then all of a sudden the beam just stopped. It stopped rotating because it's on a weight system like a grandfather clock. So like when it gets done, when the weights are always at the end, then the light will stop spinning. Oh man, this is really powerful. Like this shows once again the power of the beam. And I knew that I'd kind of timed it where the weights were going to stop and then the light was going to turn off because it's on a timer. And I was like, I don't have much time. So I started snapping pictures, and I was like, and I looked at it on the back of the camera. There's not much edit to this photo. Like it's really, this is as close to back of the camera as it's got. And I was just like, this tells so much emotion in the photo where it really just once again put into perspective the Fitzgerald event and remembering that crew and that storm. And this is the photo for me that really also changed my viewpoint on like, I want to start doing this a little bit more professionally. I never want to be a pro with this. I want it to continue to be a hobby, but I need to find ways to fund that hobby. So Absolutely. This was the photo that I was like, maybe I could start, refunding some of funding some of the gear that I would need to take better pictures. So
For sure. Yeah, that's awesome. And that's another, like, again, light came on kind of moment for you where you realize that, you're in a place and you've got a canvas and you've got the equipment and the ability and the creativity to do all those things. And for so many people that I talk to, it's, they're not going to drop, leave their career behind very often to say, I'm going to become a professional photographer, because it's a pretty, uphill battle if you were to give up things. But so many people love to do this on the side, kind of like you're doing. And if there's a way that you can, like you said, just, sell enough prints to kind of pay for your gear and be able to upgrade and treat a hobby more than just a hobby, and just be able to expand that. And you've, in a relatively short time been able to do that. And I think, it's testament to your creativity, which you have to have, and you've got to have a skill level, but to be in a place that allows you to do that literally every single day, you're in kind of the sweet spot that way. And this photo kind of sent you into orbit with that. And you've connected with so many photographers on the North Shore and probably learned a tremendous amount. So, I mean, good on you for being able to kind of recognize that, hey, I can kind of do this on the side and have fun and maybe make a little money with it too.
It does mean the world to me to hear you say that. Watch the improvement of what I've done in the last few weeks and months, because this photo really did kind of like go, I can actually do this, and I can see things a little bit differently now.
Yeah. And, talking about gear, I get asked about it all the time. Like, how much does that cost? Or, things get expensive when you want to take your stuff to the next level, but there is an amazing leap that happens when you do go from a entry-level DSLR and a kit lens to as you kind of step up and make the investment, which is never easy to do with the pocketbook, but to be able to see and recognize those things, whether you are ever going to sell a print or not, for you to be able to get back to the computer and look at that image and go, man, this, the 5D Mark IV and this full frame sensor has done something crazy different. I can think of those times in my life where I've made jumps and, bit the bullet and bought, a new body or a new lens or whatever. Yes, your tools do make a difference. Ultimately it's the person behind the camera and what's happening behind the camera that sees it and translates it. But there's no doubt that tools will make a difference. And you've kind of recognized that. A few weeks ago had one of the magical nights that, whether you've done this for 6 months or 25 years, it'll be a night you'll never forget. One that I've had the opportunity a couple times to shoot, but you guys watched the KP levels and the aurora forecast and things, if you will, the stars all aligned. And again, it's about capturing light and wrangling light. But you had this night with the Northern Lights. Tell us just kind of what that was like.
Well, when they get up that Friday, and the KP forecast was looking good, but the winds weren't looking as potentially as well, and the moon was out too, so it was just kind of like, well, we'll see what happens. And so we go down to the shore at Splitrock, and we're taking some pictures, and nothing's popping yet. And this is like 10 o'clock, and we're like, well, let's head up to Palisade Head, and let's take a look at what's up there, because if we're going to see aurora, we know it's a good spot to shoot. And so we went up there about 10 o'clock, and we just kind of set our cameras up and sat down and let our cameras run for a while, taking pictures. And we sat there till 1 o'clock and nothing had really happened. And then all of a sudden, like throughout the whole night, you could see this pink glow in all the pictures. And we're like, well, there's something there. And the moon is kind of washing it out. But the moon was going to go down at about 1:30. And all of a sudden, like 1 o'clock, these pillars, you could start to see this white really start to dance up. And we're like, okay, something's happening. All of a sudden, these pillars started dancing, and they're getting higher and higher. And we're taking pictures. We're like, this is great. This is awesome. And then all of a sudden at 1:30, it just filled the sky. Like I've never seen this bright white just fill the sky. And I was like, we all looked at it, we're like, what's just happening? And all of us photographers sitting back, like just in awe of this massive amount of light that is just coming up. And it, you can't see it with the naked eye, the reds and the greens in there, but you could start to see the green movement. You could start to see some color. And the camera on the back was just like, it was filling my whole back of the camera. We sat there probably till 3:30 shooting the aurora on Palisade Head, and just sitting there with a group of 5 to 8, it was probably 8 photographers, because we had others join us, just talking shop and talking about how magical this is. It was one of those moments where like it truly changed my life. And like I was like, I need to stay up more to try to capture these types of things. As little sleep as I'm going to get, it's just amazing.
It is one of those, and the number of people that have seen it or experienced it is minimal. But if you ever have, it's really hard to describe and articulate. And you can look at photos like the ones that we're looking at of yours, that are beautiful and incredible, but to truly see it, it kind of blows your mind that there's something like that happening. And, you talked about the winds, and I can think of a few times that I've experienced it where it looked literally like someone was taking a bed sheet and just waving it up and down. There's that moment of like taking it in and just being, the awe of the beauty of what God is doing in the sky. But also there's then at the same time, you're like, hey, I'm here because I want to get these pictures. Talk a little bit about the technique and some of the settings that you shot with and things that worked for you.
Yeah. So the one, there's the two. So the one at Palisade is actually kind of an interesting shot. So I went and set my camera on bulb and had my shutter lock on, and I put it at ISO 100 and just let the camera run. I didn't want to have a super bright foreground in mind. I wanted it to be more true to what I was actually seeing. And so I wanted to keep it a little bit darker. And so that one, I maybe ran it for 15, 20 minutes and just let it run. And when I got it on the back, I was like, this is perfect. I can see some really good foreground. And then the sky shot is a single exposure, but then I just blended the two images together and tried to make them look good. Because my personal opinion is I don't really like that bright foreground where it looks like daylight, and then the sky above you is black and has all these colors. I get that it shows the foreground really good, but I wanted to keep it a little bit darker. The other one, the one from Splitrock, we had come back at 3:30 in the morning, and we were expecting to see more people down there, and there was nobody else around. And the storm had kind of died a little bit. All of a sudden, the pillar started to pick back up again. And with this one, all I did with this one is I wanted to keep the foreground kind of dark. but I probably took like 30 shots in a row. And then what I did is I stacked the foreground together and blended those to reduce the noise. And then I did some noise reduction as well, because I really wanted to smooth it out. And then I did another single exposure for the sky, so people could see the really good detail in the color and the way it's going. And they blended really well together. So
what did you shoot for exposure on the sky, just out of curiosity?
10-second exposure
Yeah.
at 6400 ISO is
Yeah.
what I use.
Okay.
So
The thing that I love about that, yes, you see stars, you see the lighthouse, you see the northern lights. I think that one of the most powerful telling parts of that is how often are you going to look at those wet rocks in the foreground and be able to see the northern lights reflecting off the rocks? I mean, incredible.
yeah.
Great.
Yeah,
shot.
that was a really fun thing. And just to be able to try to bring out that detail a little bit more and really learning, like, you can take these 10-second exposures and then kind of stack them together to really reduce the noise in there too at such a high ISO.
Right.
The other one, it's this Milky Way in the lights one. It was kind of this, I saw the Milky Way coming up and I'm like, this is awesome. Like, it's really starting to look really good. This one I did, I kind of combined a couple different sets in there, but this one is mainly a 30-second exposure with a higher ISO to pull out the color. And it kind of, my wife calls it my sci-fi shot because it called out more color. And it's really not what my eye saw, but that's what was there. And I didn't really turn up the saturation or anything in it. It just really blended all this stuff together. And I stacked the foreground again to reduce the noise. And then what I did is I manually aligned the stars as best I could to reduce the noise for the Milky Way to pull it out. And that's the one, like, lately people have just been like kind of geeking out about, like, oh my God, this is really worlds colliding. You know, the aurora is kind of like blurred out and you've got this Milky Way kind of coming up and hitting each other together. And it kind of created this cool emotion effect in there.
People sometimes would look at a shot like this or any of these shots and go, oh, you know, they can easily Photoshop that in or whatever. And yes, there is an element of Photoshop, but the reason that that's happening and this stacking of all these images is so that when you do print it and put it on paper or on metal, you're not getting that noise and all of that crazy noisy texture. It's just ultimately the Photoshop part of this is for the quality of the print, which, you know, I want to clarify with people because I've heard several people say from this storm specifically, like, oh, and easy for somebody to Photoshop that and they could, you know, do, and, you know, you're not going to lie and say I didn't use Photoshop, but it wasn't like you hand painted in a bunch of stuff. It's truly just for the quality of the print, which is awesome.
Yeah. And we had actually, it was funny. We had a long talk, the three of us, when we were sitting on the shore at Splitrock, about like how people are going to say that this is all Photoshopped and it's fake. What I'm learning is, like, the camera sensor is so much more sensitive than your eye. So that's why it's picking up these colors. Literally the one with the Splitrock and the aurora spikes coming up the light pillars, there's very little editing that I did to that sky shot. It's pretty much right off the back of the camera. The rest of it, like you said, was to enhance the foreground, to clean it out. You know, some might call it a composite, but really that's what my eye saw. Like, and to me, that's the picture I was going for.
And that's ultimately like what resonates with people is they want to look at pictures, whether it be on Instagram or a website, or the ones that they're going to choose to hang in their home. They want something that makes them feel like it's what their eye would see. And the cameras that we're shooting with now are incredible with what they can do to pull out, and they capture a whole lot more dynamic range than the human eye can see. And you want to walk that line of like, this is what as a human we would visually understand versus, you know, some science fiction type shot. And I think you've kind of navigated that really, really nicely with these. And, you know, we've talked a little bit about printing, and I'll make sure and include your links. You're selling prints. And I think you even posted a picture of someone who ordered one of your prints and hung it in their home. And what a cool feeling for you as a kind of a upstart hobbyist, if you will, photographer, to have your work hanging in someone's house.
After this aurora storm, I did get a little rush of like purchases, and somebody bought a canvas of this Splitrock shot. And like, when they sent me the picture and they put it above their mantle, you know this, Matt, like that feeling of like somebody took time, loved the image so much, invested in it, and put it in a prominent spot in their house.
Yeah.
like that just means the world to you. Like you actually know what you're doing something good. And like
Right.
that just meant the world to me.
You know, the mantle shot is kind of the key. I mean, I always look at that when I go to people's homes, like what's the shot over the mantle? Because that's the, you know, that's the important one. So, you know, awesome that you were, you know, able to do that. And again, Hayes, I'm so excited to see kind of this kind of rebirth for you with, you know, I keep calling it a hobby, and it is something that you're doing on the side, but you're certainly not doing it at a hobbyist level. And I just look forward to the, you know, chance that we may have to go out and shoot some stuff down the road again together. And just keep up the great work and keep sharing this stuff. We'll make sure and share your Instagram and your website and all those things so people can kind of follow along with what you're doing.
I really appreciate it, Matt. This has been a fun journey for me, and getting to talk to you, somebody that, you know, you probably hear this a lot as, you know, former teacher. It's like, really, you were one of those people that inspired me through creativity to do this kind of stuff and have an eye for the natural wonder. And, you know, it did for me, you know, it never really went away, but it did kind of go on the back burner for me because of my career and what I was in. I wasn't able to explore the creative side, but never to be able to like fully like go back to where my interest and my spark came from back in high school. Was like, it was your class, it was other art teacher classes the teachers that were saying, hey, like explore this. Like now I really get what you guys were talking about. And it was like this camera and the setting that I'm in has just been able to really further that for me. It's been a really blessing to do that.
You've got an incredible place, but you've also got an incredible gift, and I'm excited just to continue to watch, you know, how that evolves and what comes from up there. So again, thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So that's it for this episode of 1,000 Words. I appreciate Hayes coming on, sharing a little bit about his story, about his newfound or rediscovered photography journey. And, you know, the incredible place that he gets to shoot is something that we're all a little bit jealous of. But, you know, be sure and go and follow him on Instagram, check out his stuff so that you can kind of put yourself in that place, which that's the amazing thing about photography, like Hayes said, is it's probably in you somewhere all along, and to be able to kind of rediscover and find that again and then be able to share it with the world is a powerful thing. So if you're enjoying these 1,000 Words episodes, please hit subscribe, share with your friends. It's been super fun for me personally, whether anyone ever watches this, just to have conversations with friends and people in the industry that I admire, and to kind of hear their version of what 1,000 Words can tell a story of their photo. So thanks, and we'll see you again next time.